Welcome in to Daily Faceoff Live, your go-to source for everything hockey. Live every weekday at noon Eastern.
Welcome into another playoff edition of Daily Faceoff Live, presented by Bet365, our sports betting partner. Just in time for the 2024 playoffs, we'll be here with Bet365 to provide you all the news, analysis, lines, and betting options for the playoffs until just one team is left standing at the end of June. And there could be one less team standing tonight. That there's an elimination game in the Stanley Cup playoffs this evening. Drama in Edmonton. We're going to talk about that elimination game with Ty Anderson coming up in a little bit during our big segment, Frank. But let's start with the big story from where we are in Edmonton, Alberta, where the Oilers are expected to be making a goalie change ahead of Game 4 against the Vancouver Canucks. Stuart Skinner, who handled the bulk of the workload during the regular season, will be on the bench, while Calvin Pickard will make his first career Stanley Cup playoff start. You can get a look on the screen here at his numbers in the regular season. Frank, if they can get this from Calvin Pickard tonight, this being his numbers, greatest coaching decision ever.
They don't even need that. That's the best part.
But
they just need passable goaltending. D-level, C-level goaltending will get you a win probably, because that's, I think, how well the Oilers have played at varying points in this series. You could make the argument that they would, at the very least, be the team that's with a 2-1 lead, if not a 3-0 lead in this series, had they just gotten marginal goaltending. So I understand the change, and we're excited to see Cal Pickard take the starter's net at morning skate in just about a half hour from now in downtown Edmonton. And look, this is a massive decision. And I think one that, hey, time will tell, but I fully support and understand Chris Knobloch's decision to get to that point, just because think back to 1 year ago. You as someone that watches the Oilers all the time, your thought process is, hey, let's just go back to Skinner. He's the safe choice.
He is the safe play, because I think if with Pickard, again, his numbers are good, but the eye test with Pickard, he always feels a little bit shaky. He's not a super polished goaltender.
But the numbers are, to me, what means more than anything. And we talked about it on yesterday's show. Last year, the critical, crucial error that Jay Woodcroft made after pulling Stuart Skinner 4 times last year in the playoffs was going back to him every single time. New coach this year, numbers are the same, if not worse. And the Oilers have gotten a .793 save percentage out of Stuart Skinner so far this series, 793. And when you get 793, you can't win. So just need to be better than that. The bar is so incredibly, impossibly low for the Oilers goaltending. You don't need to, have anything magical from Cal Pickard to clear it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. NHL Sid, who does good analytics work at OilersNation.com, he had the tweet, if the Oilers would have gotten .870 goaltending in each of the first 3 games, they would be up 3-0 in this series right now. So I totally understand that the change is warranted. You tweeted out, worst save percentage in the salary cap era for a goaltender. So something had to give. I understand that.
You can always go back to Skinner.
Well, and that was going to be my next question is like, I'm today, as I was driving into the office, I was going through all the different scenarios of like, okay, like if Pickard comes in and plays unbelievable and you win the game 3-1 or 3-0, it's like, okay, you obviously go back to him. If you win tonight's game 4-3, what do you do? If you win tonight's game 5-4,
you assess that when you see it. You look at how your team plays in front of him. You look at body language from Pickard. Frankly, you look at how Stuart Skinner responds to not being the starter. Is he pouting? What was his body language and comportment like after Game 3 when he declined to come out to the media? Mm-hmm. I think all those things have gone into it. It's not just poor play. It's also, can this guy actually handle the rigors of a Stanley Cup playoff run in his hometown? And if not, and if he's cracking under pressure, I don't care who you can always go to Jack Campbell if you need to. I know that's another step further down the line, but if Pickard doesn't work, I'd just as soon go to Campbell before I go back to Skinner. We already know Skinner doesn't work. It's proven in 20 games, .881 save percentage, worst save percentage in the salary cap era with a minimum of 15 games. You said it.
Yeah.
It's not opinion,
but
it's fact.
And I know it's pressure and it's mental stuff as well, but I can always I always go back to the 3-month stretch in the middle of the season.
I don't care. It's the middle of the regular season.
I know.
Mitch Marner never figured it out.
Yeah.
Why would Stuart Skinner? And why would you continue to do the same thing over and over again? I wouldn't, but
yeah,
I'd turn over every stone possible. I think Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl deserve it.
Yeah, and I mean, those two have been excellent through 3 games. It really is the same old story.
Ask for anything more from those two guys in their entire playoff careers.
Goaltending and depth scoring. That's plagued the Oilers 2 straight postseasons, now a 3rd straight postseason.
A tale as old as time.
Yeah, something's got to give tonight for Edmonton as they will look to even up the series against the Vancouver Canucks. The Vancouver Canucks without Carson Soucy for this one, suspended 1 game by the Department of Player Safety. Quickly, did they get it right?
100%.
Yeah. I think 2 would have probably been a little bit
excessive.
Too much.
You didn't need to. 1 game was perfect. It was, you have to send a message for a cross check that's delivered to the face, not one of that he intended to throw to the chest. It's to the face, and that's a suspension every time.
Yeah. Let's move out to the Stars and Avalanche series, Frank, where the big storyline dropped before puck drop in game 4 between those two sides, as Valeri Nichushkin is going to be suspended a minimum of 6 months as he has been placed in stage 3 of the NHLPA player assistance program, suspended without pay for 6 months as well. Right now. Yeah, it's also the playoffs.
The playoffs and the summer. So fortunately for Val Nichushkin, no hit to the wallet yet, but a big hit to reputation, a big hit to his standing with the Colorado Avalanche, a big hit to the Avs as the playoffs leader in goals, and maybe even a big hit to his wallet down the line if at some point where reinstatement, he will be eligible for it and is not guaranteed. What if the Avs way down the line 6 months from now after he exits, make the decision to terminate the contract?
Yeah.
Not eligible right now, but I think there's a clear breach of trust that you can see just from the players' comments specifically after the game.
Yeah. So I thought Jared Bednar had an interesting one. He said, yeah, it stinks for our team. We have to turn the page. We have to play better than we did today. And then he says there are 20 plus guys in that room that care and want to win and that are here. That's what we have to focus on. It hurts our team. No question. So, yeah, I mean, who knows what's going on behind the scenes? Again, he was a massive piece for the Avs, and this is going to be a storyline that'll probably continue into the summer, right? Like, this obviously isn't going to go away until there's resolution.
This is the second time. Well, it's the third time, third strike, but second time in the playoffs when it matters most. And I reported yesterday that Nichushkin recently failed a drug test. You know, when it matters most, you've now put your team in a spot that they have a gaping hole in their lineup. And last year was in the playoffs against Seattle. They lost in game 7. He had left that series in the middle of it, missed a morning skate, 911 call, and a severely intoxicated woman found in his room, needed to be carted out. This is the middle of the day in a playoff series. Addiction's a real thing. Like, don't get me wrong. And certainly hope that Val Nichushkin gets the help that he needs. But I think it was Jack Johnson that said it, you know, you make your decisions. Yeah. And if you leave your team out to dry and you betray that trust when it matters most, a lot of people would have a hard time, I think, seeing him walk through that locker room door again to come in and play for that team, including probably coaches and management. Yeah.
So let's turn our attention now to, like Jared Bednar said, the 20 plus guys on that Avs team who are trying to keep this series going. They're now down 3-1, and last night did not go their way.
What did Bednar say? Atrocious?
Yeah.
Was the word he used to describe that game for the Avs?
And I mean, you can look at the shot totals here. That doesn't look bad. 34-25. It was 16-2 in the first period. And this Avs team has now been outscored 9-2 over their last 2 games. Their power play in the 3 losses 0-8 as well. So I don't know if the Avs are going to have enough to rattle off 3 straight wins, especially against a Dallas team that is just so damn good.
Well, I was going to say, I don't know that they have enough on their best day, but then you throw in this Nichushkin sideshow and headache.
Yeah.
And that's a whole separate thing. Dallas is really good. They're not even halfway there. My preseason and postseason Stanley Cup pick. They have the depth. You see Wyatt Draisaitl score that goal from Leon's spot, and they can come at you in waves. They can play different ways. They can play physical. They're fast. And they've really pounced on the opportunities that the Avs have given them in this series to this point. Dallas is a dangerous team. I think they're the favorite in the West. Still for my money, the Rangers, maybe the Panthers are going to have something to say about it. But right now, to me, the Avs are the team standing at the top of the mountain, and someone's going to have to knock them off. I just don't know. I don't see it for the Avs, not this year. And to think about where that team was a few weeks ago before the playoffs started, and then even after beating the Jets in such a clinical fashion, everyone kind of thought the Avs are the team that they're the team to beat. And it's really been Dallas the whole time.
Yeah, only 2 players in the NHL have more goals than Wyatt Johnston so far in these playoffs. One of them, Nichushkin, the other one, Zach Hyman of the Edmonton Oilers. But you look at that performance last night, 2 goals, 8 shots on net. Frank, he's 21 years old. Is Wyatt Johnston the Stars' best forward?
I think so. At 20 years old.
That is crazy.
Really damning for all the teams that didn't select Wyatt Johnston before that. Good on the Stars, but he's grown into such a special player. And what I like about him is it's not just the goals. He's actually a really counted on and relied upon player on that team. Late in games, taking big draws, big defensive assignments. Wyatt Johnston he's the man.
I also wanted to give some love again with the Stars. A lot of love and has been going to Johnson, a lot of love to Jake Ottinger, but also Miro Heiskanen is having himself a hell of a playoffs. Frank, not only does he have 12 points, he's doing it in the offensive zone, but he's averaging north of 27 minutes a game right now for this Dallas team. And I know, OT games can kind of inflate those numbers and whatnot, but still 27 minutes a night, going up against the best players on the other side routinely, still putting up offense, playing in all situations. Miro Heiskanen, he wasn't in the Norris conversation this year, but this is a guy.
He just doesn't have the offense, the point total to really be a gaudy Norris candidate, but he's actually still on my ballot anyway.
He was in your top 5?
Yep.
Yeah. Again, I was going to say he's deserving of it as well because, he's never going to put up he hasn't put up the 80-plus point season that you get from the Makars and the Hughes, but that doesn't mean he's not one of the top defensemen in the NHL. The Stars up 3-1, pushing the Avs to the brink. Game 5 goes tomorrow night from Dallas. Yes, from Dallas. I got that right. The Carolina Hurricanes, Frank. They're going home. We may have written them off too early. A massive dub on the road last night for the Canes against the New York Rangers. I thought the Rangers were going to close this thing out at MSG. They do not. It's the Cardiac Canes extending things. Evgeny Kuznetsov finds the back of the net. He scored a couple of big ones for the Canes during this playoff run as well. And now this thing shifts back to Raleigh. It's every game between these two has felt like a coin flip. Although I will say the win last night for the Canes felt like the most dominant win a team has had in this series.
It was certainly their best effort, and they saved it for the exact right time. Yep. And now the process is really simple. I can almost hear Peter Laviolette's words back from when he coached the Flyers. Of course, led Carolina to a Stanley Cup. By the way, coincidentally, leads the Canes Game 7 Stanley Cup win 2006 against the Oil. You know that to start off this series, or Game 3 in Raleigh, was the first playoff game he coached there back since then? He never made it to another one while coaching the Canes, if you believe that. Anyway, I can hear his words. Just win one. One game. Doesn't matter what Game 7 looks like. That's a few days from now. Would anyone be surprised to see the Canes win one game? The series has been that close. I give them that opportunity. You mentioned coin flip. These teams are razor thin. That's the margin of separation between the two of them. The Rangers got off to such a lopsided series lead, 2 OT games, plus a special teams battle that they won in Game 1. There's still room for the Canes to get back into it, and I like their chances to force a Game 7 winner take all at Madison Square Garden.
Let me give you some numbers for just how big home ice advantage has been for the Carolina Hurricanes in the playoffs. Not only are they 4-1 in this year's postseason on home ice, Frank, but over the last 3 playoffs, they have the highest home winning percentage in the entire NHL. and a 16-5 record in games in Raleigh. So Caniacs are going to be absolutely buzzing, and
what a tailgate that would be.
Yeah, it is going to be unbelievable out in Carolina. So far in these playoffs, you even look at the 2 games they've had on home ice. They lose that absolute heartbreaker in OT, which is, I think, one of the best games we've seen this season, the way they went back and forth for 60 plus minutes, and then they get the big win to keep their season alive in game 4. Canes will now be looking for a 3rd straight victory to force a game 7. Frank, let's get out to our big segment for the day and welcome in Ty Anderson for another edition of the All 32. The All 32 is powered by Booster Juice. Visit a location today to refuel, refresh, and re-energize, or download the new Booster Rewards app to earn, order, and enjoy. Ty Anderson joins us from 98.5, the Sports Hub out in Boston. And Ty, you were just done at the rink for morning skate, where we got the news that Brad Marchand will not play again for the Boston Bruins. I guess 2-parter here for you. How apparent was Marchand's absence in the last game, and who do you think maybe needs to step up a bit tonight in his absence for the Bruins?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely noticeable. You know, you're talking about the emotional leader of the team as well as your leading point guy right now through 10 playoff games he was. So it was definitely noticeable. It's hard for this team to generate offense as is, but when you eliminate a guy who can turn offense on a dime, it definitely has a huge factor. And so, you know, with him out, I still look at their top 6. You know, David Pastrnak scores a goal in game 4. Needed to get that goal for sure, but you sort of look at the other guys there, your Pavel Zacha's, your Charlie Coyles, like they got to kind of get going here a little bit. And I think Zacha specifically, I don't think it's been a good series for him. I thought he had a solid game 1, but since then it's kind of gone back to being a little bit too quiet. But you know, with their current roster, like complexion and how it's set up, like you're going to need these guys to step up and score some big goals for you. Coyle, you know, he came close in game 4, but he's got to break through, and I think so does Zacha. You know, this is kind of like the problem they have with their roster, and we knew it was going to be a problem from the jump, but it seems like it's starting to rear its head now at the worst possible time for the Bruins.
Makes sense too, Ty, right? Like that's how it works when you go up against the best teams in the league at the biggest moments. Some of your weaknesses get exposed. But I wanted to ask you about the way that this series started. You did some, you know, great reporting yesterday with Pat Maroon and some of the things that he said and the physical nature of the bang that this series started with. But are you a little bit surprised or concerned with the pushback from the Bees since, or maybe lack thereof?
A little bit, yeah. But I also think that the truth of the matter may be that a guy like Sam Bennett is too valuable to fight, or he doesn't want to give the Garden any juice, you know, in fighting in game 4. I mean, I understand that part of it. I don't think Sam Bennett...
that Sam Bennett was dealing with a hand-wrist injury
right.
that caused him to miss time, that he's not going to drop the gloves because there may or may not have been a pin placed in that wrist or hand at some point via surgery.
Yeah, exactly. And so you understand it from that standpoint, but it's, you know, I thought they had a great start to game 4. The Bruins did in terms of their physicality. Charlie McAvoy with that huge hit on Sam Reinhart right out of the gate. It kind of set the tone, but then it kind of faded, right? And I don't know if the Bruins are built to play that heavy physical type of game for a full 60 minutes against this kind of Florida team. And I think you kind of saw that the way that it went as that game progressed. It was a great start, but it faded, right? They got up 2-0 and they are just not playing as physical as they were. And they were trying to put the game away, and you respect that part of it. But really the physicality and that message sending, it wasn't quite there that the way I think a lot of fans in Boston really wanted to be and expected to be when your captain is taken out of a series.
So I don't want to shovel any dirt on the Bruins casket just yet. I think it's too soon, but I also don't see this team winning 3 straight to beat the Panthers. If you could just give us some sort of overall perspective on what, you know, if the Bruins are to go down in this series, what does that mean for the Bees? This is a team that we kind of just touched on, maybe a little bit flawed in their construction. Certainly down the middle, as valiantly as Charlie Coyle played this season. Do you look at this as, you know, maybe is this the end of an era, so to speak, in terms of, hey, this is a team that for 13 years now has been one of the most competitive in the league. Are they going in a different direction, or are they able to sustain this?
I think they're still going to be a competitive team. Like you sort of look at their roster, and their current construct. Like, they have the guy in net, it appears, with Jeremy Swayman. They have a defenseman, Charlie McAvoy. They have Pastrnak. So like, they have pieces. I just think that they need. I think if the playoffs have highlighted anything for us, Frank, it's that they need another high-end center. Like, you saw how they were able to survive against Toronto, and I use the term survive. Like, they probably should have lost that series, all things considered, and especially look at the play down the middle there, Austin Matthews, John Tavares, like, and you're throwing out Pavel Zacha and Charlie Coyle, who are solid, serviceable players, but they are a number 2 and number 3 center on a competitive, contending kind of team. And so they need to address that. And how do they do that? You know, that is the question. They do have some cap space. They have the money to make a big move, but, you know, doesn't Elias Lindholm, for example, want to come here? Is that something that happens? And is that the guy? You know, like, there's that question as well. So they have some money to play with. So I don't think they're going to fade out of frame. I think, to your point, though, it's more of a changing of the guard where, you know, the guys like Bergeron and Krejci are already gone. Marchand's going to play until they take him off the ice. Like, he's going to play, I think, into his late 30s, early 40s, honestly. But this is becoming Pasternak's team and McAvoy's team and Swayman's team. And now it's on those guys to kind of set the tone for this next era that the franchise is running into.
Just quickly on tonight, do we know who's starting for the Bruins?
I'd be shocked if it's not Jeremy Swayman. This would be an impossible spot to put Linus Ullmark in. I thought the spot to put him in was Game 4. And once they didn't, that felt like a sort of finality to it. Like, well, you can't go to him now because you're not going to go to him if you're tied 2-2. You're not going to go to him if you're down 3-1. You know, the Bruins are very cognizant of the spot they put Jeremy Swayman in last year, putting him in Game 7 after sitting for 13 days or 17 days, whatever it was. Like, they didn't like putting him in that spot. So I don't think they'll do something similar here to Linus Ullmark and have a repeat of last year. So I think it's going to be Jeremy Swayman in net for them.
You know, just give us a quick, you know, read and reaction on what the market's been like in Boston. You guys have your finger on the pulse at 98.5 the hub. And is the market on fire right now with the Bees results, or is this what some fans expected, or was there greater expectations than this?
I think that people were happy with winning a round, but then when you win Game 1 against a better team, I think that the expectations kind of change. And so to lose 3 in a row, to be on death's door here for the Bruins, like, people are frustrated. And I think the Bruins fan is like the last bastion of like Boston misery, right? Like the Patriots have won their Super Bowls. The Red Sox have won their World Series. The Celtics they won it in 08 and they probably should win it again this year. But like, Bruins fans, like, they have been through it all. Like, they've seen another team raise their cup in their building twice. They had the best season ever last year, losing 7 games in overtime. Like the Bruins fans are truly miserable, and I love that about them. So they're always mad. But I think there's a special frustration when you win the first game and then you look lifeless for the next 3, and you've been outclassed, and you factor in the dirty play here in Boston. You know, like Tkachuk going after David Pastrnak, the Bennett punch on Marchand, like. For a lot of Bruins fans, their identity has been that rough and tumble, big bad Bruins kind of philosophy. And so when the Florida Panthers, and no disrespect to the Florida Panthers, but like, when you're getting smacked around by the Panthers, it doesn't play well in this city, right? And so I think Bruins fans are angry, but they're always angry. But they're angry for different reasons, I think, right now.
Fair. Should be a spicy one tonight. The All 32 powered by Booster Juice. Ty Anderson from 98.5 The Sports Hub. You can find him on Twitter @_Ty Anderson. Appreciate your time, man. Thanks for squeezing us in.
Absolutely. Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
Daily Faceoff inbox question is powered by Douglas Mattresses. Right now, every mattress order at douglas.ca/DFO comes with a free comfort sleep bundle. They are handcrafted in Canada, ensuring the highest quality materials and fastest delivery to you. Head to douglas.ca/DFO to order today. Frank, #AskDFO, something you tweeted out a little bit earlier on today. Craig Berube interviewing out in Winnipeg, one of the top coaching candidates in the league. Is that job maybe, like, I've been just going about my life thinking it's Scott Arniel's. They're just going to hire Scott Arniel. Is that maybe not as much of a sure thing as people like myself think?
Yeah, I don't think you bring someone in as a candidate, especially of Craig Berube's stature, and do it just for kicks. Do it to waste his time, your time, and frankly, valuable time with your coaching search process. So certainly believe that the Jets are going into this with an open mind. I would hope that's the case. I think that's how Kevin Cheveldayoff would operate in general. I think we've all sort of believed that Scott Arniel is the front runner. And I guess the big question is, could someone like Craig Berube knock him off of that pedestal with a really solid interview process? I think you'd have to allow for the possibility. I would still say the favorite in this case is Arniel, but look at how much Craig Berube is in demand. And frankly, what a story it would be if after Ottawa, New Jersey, Toronto all seem to really be interested in him. And I do, I wonder, just how deep in the process he's gone in both of these places. Like, he spent 2 days with the Leafs over the weekend, multiple days with the Devils. He's got options. And so what if the Jets were the team to step up first and say, you know what, this is our guy. We're going with him. And, that's the guy that's going to lead the Jets into the future. It would really be quite a story.
Yeah, it would be. The other side of this too, I mean, the Jets obviously not just messing around bringing him in, but where would they rank? Like, let's say Berube, again, top candidate, if he has New Jersey, Toronto, Winnipeg saying, hey, we want you, let's go. Where does Winnipeg sit on that list?
I don't know. Me personally, I would rank them New Jersey, Winnipeg, Toronto, but that's just my view. It's not that I, would be afraid of everything that comes with the Toronto market. I just think they've got a lot of work to do with their roster too. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be a lot of influx. Yeah, you could have the star player in Austin Matthews and William Nylander, or Jack Hughes and Luke Hughes and everything else coming in New Jersey. How much of a rung down are they? And, can you be close to home? Can you, pile all these things into one job? That's what I would look at it like, but I'm also not Craig Berube, and that's also pretending that all of the offers, if you were to get them, are all financially equal.
Yeah, and that's a good point as well. Let's move into our daily bet segment, brought to you by Bet365, the largest sports betting platform globally. Open an account with Bet365 today and use the promo code DAILY365. Look at that right there, top of your screen. You can get in on a huge range of markets, whatever the sport, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Gav, here's my pick for today. It's the over 6.5 between Vancouver and Edmonton. Listen, Frank, even if Calvin Pickard has a very good game, I think he's given up a couple of goals here. I like the Oilers offense to keep rolling. They scored 3 last game and they had 7 other chances. And Leon Draisaitl alluded to this in his postgame. He had 7 other chances that beat Arthur Seelovs, just didn't quite get over the line, hit the post, were pulled off the goal line, whatever it may be.
Did you just call him Arthur?
Arthur? I don't know. Seelovs. I'll just stick with Seelovs then. The point is, I like the highest scoring option tonight between the Oilers and Canucks.
I have such a hard time getting a feel for this. Like, I thought heading into game 2 that the Oilers were going to stomp the Canucks, and they did, but it took until the third period, and it took them to overcome 3 different 1-goal deficits. I thought they'd take that and carry it over from third period game 2, coming home to home ice. And it was Dakota Joshua and his line, which punched the Oilers in the face to start that game.
Yeah.
I don't have a good read. You could certainly be right. I would, for whatever reason, my gut is telling me Oilers in a close, low-scoring game, 3-1.
All right. Also, I know these kind of things are pushed by public money and public perception, but our Bet365, they do have some coaching markets up. Craig Berube, even money as the top option to be the Toronto Maple Leafs head coach on the opening night of the 24-25 season. Scott Arniel plus 120, the leader for the Winnipeg Jets. Craig Berube, 40-1 to be the next head coach of the Winnipeg Jets over on Bet365.
Do they have New Jersey on there?
They do not have New Jersey, just the 2 Canadian teams.
And what are the other options in Toronto?
McClellan plus 110, Evison and Woodcroft 9-1, Gallant, Brindamore 10-1, Guy Boucher 12-1, Quenneville 20-1. Not reinstated yet by the league, but
that sounds like a poor bet.
All right. All right, let's wrap up the show with a little bit of garbage time. It is brought to you by Wendy's. Frank, fresh, never frozen beef. That is what Wendy's is all about. In all their burgers, Baconator, Dave Single, JBC, you'll only ever find real fresh beef that's real juicy and loaded with fresh toppings. So download the Wendy's app, check out the latest deals, and order a burger. That's only job is being delicious. Frank, I had someone send this to me the other day. It's from Saturday in the PWHL, but the joke they sent to me was, oh, you think the Oilers are overusing their stars in a game between Montreal and Boston. I have it up here a little bit closer to us so you can see. The game goes to triple overtime, 110 minutes. They had players who played 52, 56 minutes in that game but they also hilariously had players who were down in the 12-second range, the 35-second range.
Madison Bazal, look, I don't know. I haven't followed this at all, but if you're playing 35 seconds in a game of that length, I don't know about your standing on the team next year.
On one end of the spectrum, like you had Aaron Ambrose, 61 minutes and 33 seconds, like unbelievable to play that much hockey in one single night. On the other end of the spectrum,
that's like Darnell Nurse. That's like
there was a triple OT Oilers Jets one year where Nurse played 60 minutes.
That's what I said. That challenged that number.
It did. And also the other end of the spectrum, Bridget Lagagne, 12 seconds, still found a way to be a -1 in a 2-1 triple OT game. Anyways, I just thought the numbers there gave me a good chuckle the other day.
Wild. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to Ryan McDonough, of course, of the Nashville Predators, goes back to Wisconsin and graduates. Obviously, long, successful NHL career, but to go back and finish your degree, love to see it. I kind of poke our guy Colby Cohen all the time. Like, when are you going to go get your degree, Colb? Got to go back to BU. You turned pro. You made it to the NHL. That's awesome. If he's in the chat, I'm sure he's like, hey, I don't really want to move back to Boston to finish it. Some places offer virtual learning. Some places make you actually go back to campus, which is why some guys don't do it. But full marks, some guys make promises to their moms. I'm going to go back and finish. I know you let me leave early, but I want to get my degree. And so good on Ryan McDonough for doing so from the Preds.
That reminds me of the funny Alex Vlasic thing we had a couple of weeks ago where he emailed his classmates and was like, hey, I'm going to pursue hockey. Will not be able to help with the group project.
I'm bailing on our group project.
Also, just a quick reminder, if you head to dailyfaceoff.com right now and hit the DFO Games tab up in the top right corner, you can take part in the Playoff Parlay Challenge. There are daily options, there are round-by-round options, and they all come with prizes. You can win gift cards, you can win Nation Gear gift cards, and you can win a shot to bring home a jersey from your favorite team. Head to games.dailyfaceoff.com to make your picks today. That is a wrap on today's edition of the show. Frank and I will be back right here tomorrow in Edmonton to recap Game 4 between the Canucks and Oilers, talk a little Bruins Panthers as well, and get set for a night that will feature another couple of elimination games in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Enjoy the hockey tonight, and we'll chat again tomorrow.
Thanks for tuning in to Daily Faceoff Live. Make sure you hit the subscribe button to never miss an episode.